Many people spend more time planning a wedding, birthday party, or buying a car than they do for what care they'll need at the end of their life. It's a difficult subject to talk about, but it is so important for yourself and for your family. Hello, and welcome to Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. My guest today says that everyone 18 and older should have an advanced care plan. He is the medical director of AtlantiCare Palliative Medicine, Dr. Christopher Bolich. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Robin.
Give us a little overview of your background, doctor.
I've been a physician for over 20 some odd years. In 2002, I moved to the shore here and set up my own practice, which was in house calls. And I did that for about 15 years. And I developed a tremendous love of these patients that are bedbound and homebound that can't get out. And I started to embrace a lot of palliative care. I eventually took my boards and became palliative care certified. I've also been working in hospices. And a couple of years ago, I went to Cooper to be purely a palliative care physician, train other physicians to be palliative care physicians, and ended up being the interim head. And then, of course, I transitioned down here mainly because the drive was killing me. So.
Well, fair enough. That's understandable. You are very passionate about helping people to plan what they need, what they want for the end of their life. Tell us what advanced care planning actually is.
So advanced care planning is setting up a plan to make sure that we know your wishes, that the providers, the physicians, the nurses, et cetera, the medical team knows what you want specifically at the end of life, but regarding your care, specifically if you can't speak or communicate with us. We want to do what you want done. And it's important to have those documents and plans set in place beforehand when it's common, it's not emotional for you to have to try and make those decisions. So it's always best to have those plans set up.
What are some of the documents that we need?
So there's a couple documents that we see. There are documents called instruction directives and proxy directives. They're also known as living wills and durable power of attorney for healthcare. The instruction directive is basically a framework of how you want to be treated in certain conditions. It is a non-actionable document, which means that we as physicians and providers and emergency personnel don't necessarily have to follow it. It just gives us a framework and to have a conversation with your loved ones about what your wishes are. The proxy directive really establishes who is the person you want to speak in your behalf. And that person needs to understand that they are speaking for you. So they're to make decisions that you want done.
Holiday season, and it's a unusual gift, but probably one of the best gifts we could give to our family, because if the situation does arise, they will know what to do. How do we go about it? What exactly do we need to do to get the ball rolling?
So it's relatively easy. You can go to our website. We have those forms on there that you can print out. You can go to your lawyer. A lawyer can certainly draft this up. You can go to your local supply store like Staples and get forms already made up that you just fill in. But it's important, and most important is to talk it over with your family, specifically your proxy directive. I can't tell you how many times that I've called a proxy directive or a proxy person to speak with them about a patient, and they're shocked to know that they're the ones who are left with the decision making, that no one ever told them that they were this. It's important for them to have that information, that they know what you
Absolutely.
want. Yeah.
Absolutely, because you're leaving them in a very difficult position at that point. So it's very important to do this. But do you find that it's sometimes a difficult topic for people to discuss or to talk about?
Absolutely, it's a difficult conversation. Who wants to talk about their own or someone they love's mortality? We don't. It's the same reason why, no one talks about their will, right? It's
Yeah.
something we need to do. It's something that we should have, but we don't always do it.
Yes, it is a tough thing. So, how do you recommend broaching this conversation with someone?
This is a very difficult situation, but really the best way is to just sit down saying, look, I have important stuff that I need to talk to you about, and put those wishes in a document, and then talk to your family and say, this is what I want. I want you to follow my wishes. And in fact, I've put it down. There's another document I should touch upon, and that's a form called a PULSed form. And PULSE stands for Providers Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. It is a document for only certain individuals, not for everyone. An instructive directive and a proxy directive should be completed by everyone over the age of 18, and that's specifically what our military does. So when our young men and women go to boot camp, they're instructed to fill these out. They must fill this out. That's how important it is. But a PULSE form is really for those that are ill, very ill, critically ill or frail, those that go into nursing homes. These are documents that are actionable, meaning myself, other physicians, nurse practitioners, emergency personnel must follow those directions because they are actually orders. They're physicians' orders, and they're portable. They can be transmitted anywhere in the state of New Jersey, except the family has to make sure that we know about those documents.
That was my next question. What do we do with the documents once we fill them out and we have them? Where do they go?
So you should have the original document. So when I complete a PULSE form with a patient, and the other thing to say is that PULSE form needs to be completed by a medical professional, not by the patient, because there's a lot of technical stuff in there. So once they have the form, I give them the original back. They need to make several copies of it. And I always instruct my patients, take it to your medical team, your primary care doctor, your surgeon, your oncologist, your cardiologist. Give it to them so they can put it into their system. I work at AtlantiCare. It's a big facility, and we have a section in our computer record that has these forms on there. However, I always tell my patients, you have a AtlantiCare cardiologist, take it to them, because to be honest, when he's seeing you in the office, he's looking at your cardiology stuff. He doesn't necessarily go to that. And when you give him a copy of it, it kind of sticks in his mind that this is what
Sure.
he
You're
needs to
covering your
understand.
bases and you don't know if
Yeah,
you could be away somewhere, God forbid,
that's
where
exactly
something
right.
could happen. So it's very important, but I would imagine you keep it in a safe place, maybe a fireproof box in your home, something along those lines, and you let people know where it is.
That is true. You want to put it somewhere that is secure, but you also want to make sure that people understand. And in fact, with PULSE forms, since those patients are so sick, we actually recommend you put a copy on the refrigerator so that any emergency personnel, a refrigerator is a centrally located place. It's a relatively small location, and it will always be there.
That's actually a really good idea. But again, it would be a gift to your loved ones if you went ahead and did this. I mean, right now, don't wait. Everyone should have it over the age of 18, some sort of advance directive, and let people know what your wishes are. And as difficult as it would be something that would help them if they should need to make a decision for you. So everyone should do it, and you can talk to your kids about it. It might be difficult for the kids to talk to their parents. So don't wait for them. Go to them and say, "This is what I want. I know it's hard for you to hear this, but as far as we know, no one's lived forever. We have
Yeah,
to think about this. It's part of life."
it's
And
part of
so
life. Exactly.
absolutely. So we need to make sure that we do that. So what advice would you give to anyone as we close here about doing advance directive?
So I would tell you, anybody listening to this should have an instruction directive and a proxy directive. And if you're seriously ill, then I recommend you go to your physician, your primary care doctor, or your cardiologist, or your cancer doctor, and you ask them about whether or not you're appropriate to have a PULSE form, and then get them filled out, and then talk with your family. And you're right, it is very difficult topic to bring up. But if you sit down and say, look, I really want to do this, it's very important to me. It's very important for me to get this information to you in case something happens. And remember, we always talk to the patient. Patient always gets discussed what their condition is. These documents only take place when you are unable to answer for yourself.
Absolutely. So yes, that's a good point to remind people about. So where can people get more information, and where can they download these documents again?
So they can go to AtlantiCare.org to get the documents and download them, or they can call 1-888-569-1000.
1-888-569-1000.
Correct.
Really great information, something that we often don't think about, but we should. Very important to be able to do that. Thank you so much, Dr. Christopher Bolich.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. And thank you for joining me for Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.